Yo, what's going on? It's your boy T Drake and got my boy Korey Harris with me tonight. Now, listen, this is normally the Sunday night podcast, but we're doing it on Monday. Yeah, we've been slipping the past couple of Sundays. You know what I'm saying? Just still trying to get the whole travel thing going when I'm on the road and Corey's on the road, and we're still trying to get this thing, saying rocking and rolling and going the right way. But it's all good. So, Cole, what's going on with you, bro?
T, what's going on, my brother? Shout out to
Yeah.
everybody out there. Thank you for being patient with us, rocking with us. We're back. Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Yo, man, you know what I'm saying? You know what I got to talk about. It's front and center, bro. You know what I'm saying? What happened to them Georgia Bulldogs, man?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I did not catch the game. I'm not a Bulldog
fan.
Man. I was busy that night. I'm a Florida fan. That's what we always
I know you're a Florida fan, but you live in hot Atlanta, bro.
That's true.
And it's the biggest game of the year, man.
It was. But you know what? Had some work to do that night, man. So, I heard it was a great game. You can catch me up on all the festivities and everything that went down.
Man, I ain't even finna do it. I ain't even finna do it.
See,
I ain't finna catch you.
That's what you want to do. You was looking forward to rubbing it in my face. Then you're like, well, shoot, he don't even care. So let's move on.
Well, what did your Gators do this weekend?
Man, I don't know either. I don't know nothing about what. Look, I was working from Thursday till basically up to now till we jumped on this live broadcast, man. So I just know I'm locked in. I'm all about trying to present value. So, I'm willing to miss out on Gator games. I missed the Falcons game.
You missed the Falcons game?
Yeah, I see people fighting in the stands, on social media going crazy. And I'm like, dog, man, I must have missed a good game. So, I have been AWOL.
So, first of all, you missed Bama, Georgia. Mm-hmm. You missed your Gators. Then you missed the Falcons.
Then
and the Falcons were playing the Saints, right?
That's right.
And they won.
That's our biggest rivalry.
The biggest rivalry. You missed it, bro. Like, what? You know what? We normally hit these first 15. Let me see who's all locked in with us tonight. Let me see that. Got a couple people locked in.
How we gonna tell the people to be locked in if we ain't locked in? You know what I'm saying, T? So I'm sacrificing right now. I'm sacrificing, baby.
Man, you know what I'm saying? I bet you don't even know who playing on Monday Night Football right now, do you?
Oh, man.
You know what I'm saying, bro? How we going to do our first 15 minutes and you don't know nothing that's going on?
I do know that Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle just got swapped. DiVincenzo was a part of that deal too, right? I could break down all
So all right. Talking about something, at least you know that. So my thing is this. What do you think about that swap? Who will become the better team due to this swap? Because that was a huge swap.
Yeah, that is a huge swap. And I think first and foremost, they're both great talents, Julius Randle and Karl Anthony Towns. So, both teams are getting good players. But let's just be real. I think Julius Randle has reached his ceiling of the type of player that he can become. I feel like Karl Anthony Towns has more to give, more to offer, more versatile. I also think just from a personality standpoint, Julius Randle is one track, bull in a china shop, aggressive, attack mode all the time. And it's Ant-Man's team in Minnesota. So Julius is going to have to be second or third because Naz Reid had a very big run in the playoffs and played well throughout the regular season. So they're probably going to try to feature him a little bit more. I think Karl Anthony Towns, if he's willing to play winning basketball, which we saw in spurts last season, if he's willing to do that in New York, then now you have a perennial all-star who's versatile, can handle the ball, can shoot, can defend if he decides to. We saw it in the playoffs. When he wanted to go meet you at the rim, he was giving up his body, was sacrificed for the team. He's not crying to the refs. He's okay. So I feel like the Knicks, they kind of came out a little bit cleaner in that. DiVincenzo was a big loss, but, he didn't want to take a back seat. So, salute to him for doing what he felt was necessary for his career. But Julius Randle could prove me wrong. He could prove me wrong.
Yeah. And teamed up with Ant-Man, they've already saying that, Julius likes to massage the ball, Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
They needed another like kind of hub, like a playmaker,
Mhm.
like someone who, if he catches it, he can make a, quick reversal pass, or he's going to be able to play off the ball. And then if he does have the ball, he can make Ant's life a little bit easier. And that's what that's what Cat was supposed to be,
Yeah,
right? He's a star in his own right, but you can see he can do everything else, but it's just, does he have the mindset to do it?
yeah,
So I think him, and we also have to think about the psychology of sports and professional sports. When you play in one city your
mhm,
whole career, you're the highest paid player pretty much every year. You get comfortable. So like it's very hard to change after a certain amount of time. Like he's never played anywhere else. Like
yeah,
Minnesota is his home. So as
yeah,
much as we say it's Ant's team, it somewhat it could, you could argue, is his,
yeah,
right, at the same time. So I think this is like jarring, and it could wake him up to
mhm,
the not only the business of basketball, but just the reality of you're not always going to have everything like catered, and you're going to have to figure out now like what's going to be your legacy,
yeah,
because you can be remembered as a really good player who never could win, or you could be the guy that struggled, kind of climbed the mountain somewhat, almost got to the mountaintop, and now you got another chance to do it in a large market city,
mhm.
and you adjust your game and you figure it out, and now you get mentioned in the history books. So
Gotcha. There it is, man. So shout out to my folks on Instagram that's locking in with us tonight. Now I know it says it's the Sunday night conversation, but y'all looking at it like, yo, this is Monday. Yes, it's the Sunday night conversation. We just pushed it to Monday. We couldn't go another week without not getting on tonight and having our conversation and keeping the ball rolling. Travel gets us a lot. And but we're still working through making sure that we are here with you all, bringing you thoughts from our minds and basketball, all that kind of good stuff that we got that we want to bring to you in regards to this podcast that we have rocking and rolling every single week. That
for
we're supposed
sure.
to have rocking every single week. Now, sometimes we know what I'm saying, we're gonna have to record and then post it like that and rock it out Sunday night, and we're gonna get better with that. So we're gonna do that. So Cole, man, we
So
already talked a little bit. We can't talk no about football, even though it's football season, because we ain't watching no football, no Bama, Georgia, no Florida, no Falcons. So I just don't know what's
oh
going on with
man, I even missed some WNBA playoff games. I caught one last night because of my wife. So I mean, when I say I'm locked in, man, like I block out, anything and everything. And all right. So this is a quote I heard years ago, and maybe it'll make sense to the fans, or not the fans, but the people listening, and help T get off my back a little
to
bit.
the Champions
So
podcast audience. Go ahead, drop the quote
yeah,
that
yeah, here
you're
we
about
go.
to talk.
So the quote was, and this was a direct question someone asked me. I'm not even going to just say it was a quote, it was a question. Korey, why are you spending so much time watching other people clock in and do their 9 to 5? Who comes and watches you at work? And I thought about it and I said, nobody. He said, well, you're watching other people chase their dreams. How about you spend more time chasing yours? And then one day I'll tune in to watch you live out yours. And so at that point, I started mentally adjusting and understanding, if I'm clocking in every Monday night, every Saturday at 1 p.m. all the way down through 6 p.m., Sunday after church, I'm locked into the Falcons game. Like, you can add up the hours over the course of your just fall. Let's say fall and winter, just football season. You probably in the hundreds of hours,
Mhm,
right? It's what, 17, 18 weeks in a regular season. You got playoffs.
mhm.
That's a good amount of time that we're devoting to, and it's a religion of some sorts here in America, right?
Mhm.
What else could you be doing? Not to say that it's a bad thing, because this is a sports podcast. We get in and we chop it up, we break it down. It's barbershop talk. But I think all of us at times, when we really want to make steps and make strides and accomplish our goals, we got to figure out like, what are we willing to kind of give up. So for me, sometimes just walking away from that TV screen is hard, but I got to do it. Other times I'll work with this TV screen on. But this past weekend, man, I had to really focus up. I had to get right.
I understand.
I appreciate you, my brother.
I
I
understand.
appreciate
But let me ask you this:
you. Okay.
when last 7 days, what day was your Sabbath day?
Oh man. I don't really have a Sabbath, T. That's a great question, man. Great question.
Don't have the Sabbath day.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to everybody tuning in on IG. You know what I'm saying? You're locked in with me and your host, me and my co-host Korey Harris.
Sure.
I'm really giving him a hard time right now because he missed the Bama Georgia game, he missed the Falcons game, he missed the Gators game, and we have nothing to talk about. For our 15 minutes we normally do. So the thing about it is this: so what day was your Sabbath day on the last 7 days? Even the Lord rested on the 7th day.
That's
so
right. That's right.
What day was your Sabbath day? Because on the Sabbath day, you could have, if you took it on Sunday, you could have, watched the games. If you took it on Saturday, you could have watched the game. I'm just asking. I'm just asking. If the Lord rested on the Sabbath, on the 7th day, then when is Korey rested?
That's a great question, T.
Okay.
To be continued.
To be continued.
TBD.
Because he will give you, he will do more in those 6 than he will do in your 7.
For sure. For sure. See, look, we done changed the sports podcast to a Dr. Phil session. Look, y'all just get to tune in and watch me on the couch. You know what I'm saying? T, you can take it from here, my brother. I'm gonna just let you minister. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get my pen. I'm gonna get my pen and paper. I'm ready.
To be continued, like you said. So check this out. To the Champions podcast audience tonight, we're diving into the players. Last time you was tuning in to us, we was talking to the parents. Tonight we're talking to the players. So moms, dads, coaches, AAU coach, high school coach, middle school coaches, college coaches. Go ahead and college coaches. Yeah, go ahead and grab a player. Send a link to them. Do something do all that good stuff that you do to help promote the podcast, but also at the same time, go ahead and send that link to somebody that you know that can benefit from us talking tonight from our 3 pillars: frustrations, turnovers, and sloppy ball handling; desires, improving overall performance; and fears, losing their starting position. So just to kind of jump off into that frustration of turnovers and sloppy ball handling. We talked a couple of weeks ago in regards to it's not really about who starts the game. A lot of people want to start, but you really want to be in that last 5 that finish the game, especially in tight games, because those last 5 are really guys and girls that can really close the game for you. And one thing that you need in the closing minutes of the game is someone that's going to take care of the ball. Cole, you played the PG spot. How important is someone that can take care of the ball, not just in the crucial time of the game, in-game time, but all throughout the game, understanding the importance of limiting your turnovers, and how does players deal with frustrations of turnovers and sloppy ball handling?
Yeah, man, I think it's super important. Like you said, when it's like those crucial situations, I think you don't even realize it when you have a good ball handler. Like you don't even think about it. From a coach's perspective, right, on the high school level, last season, we had a pretty solid point guard by the name of Tyson Pittman, and then we had a good backup by the name of Bramir. And the both of them, they were pretty sturdy when it came to getting the ball up and down the floor, getting us into our offense. But then, as soon as one of them maybe had to come out, or the ball had to go into someone else's hands, it was like you realize instantly the difference, because now ball might get stuck on one side of the floor. Somebody's not able to see the open man. And from a player's perspective, I'm gonna just speak as a former player. When I was like at my best, it was like breathing. Like I never thought about which hand am I dribbling with, or I hope he doesn't send me left, or how am I going to get the ball to the wing so that we can initiate from here? Or, man, how am I going to throw the ball into the post? Like I said, it's like breathing. It flows, right? But before that, when I, wasn't a solid ball handler and it was a struggle, honestly, it was literally like my fears realized. Like every time a team was in full court press, or anytime I knew that I was going to get picked up over the half court line and potentially get trapped. So for the players out there, I'll say, obviously you want to be able to have it on autopilot where you're not even necessarily looking at the guy guarding you. You can see past him, right? You're seeing the second and third level of defense. as a coach, you definitely want to be able to know that you're putting the ball in the hands of a trusted playmaker, and they're just going to get you into your sets with plenty of time left on the shot clock. As far as like what is the frustration like, I don't think they'll believe this when I say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I went from leading the nation, so I played Division III basketball. I went from leading the nation in turnovers to, like literally like number one for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying? I think it was my sophomore or maybe just the first half of my junior year. So like, yes, the end of my sophomore through the first half of my junior year, synergy, like it breaks it all down. I could see where I was. I was the worst in turnover ratio, like turnover percentage, like for every one assist I get like 3.5 turnovers.
In the nation.
Right? In the nation. And it was like only people who played enough. You know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't say, oh, well, this guy turns it over more than you. He doesn't play enough to compare to me. Like I play so much, he's in a lower bracket. You know what I'm saying? It's only for the big dogs. Like I was number one. So I went from that to being number one on the opposite end of assist to turnover ratio, where for every 2.5 to 3 assists I would get, I'd only turn it over once. And I went for like a 8-game streak, I think, at home, second semester of my junior year, where I just didn't turn it over. So the difference in those 2 seasons or 2 periods was a mentality and then a comfort level when it came to pressure. So I hope that, this conversation we dive into is one that can kind of uncover some of that, because I know that there's plenty of guards out there that probably struggle with the same thing. Hopefully you're not leading the nation, but, it is a thing that I can admit it will stunt your game in other ways. Like you can't get your shot off if you can't handle the ball. You can't find your teammates if you can't handle the ball. You're probably going to foul on defense because you're frustrated from the turnover. So you're going to like overcompensate and try to play too hard and not be in position. And so you'll give up buckets, get scored on, foul, not rotate correctly. You know what I'm saying? Like it just throws you off, and now your coach don't trust you. Yeah. So you're looking over your shoulder and you're playing nervous. So you pass up open shots when you should shoot them. Like it's a whole thing, but you got to go through it to understand.
So let me just, you got to go through to kind of get the understanding. But let me ask you this. How much can we attribute to lack of being able to handle pressure in games to the type of training that kids are getting, our players are getting now, whether it's with their, coaches or in the off season with certain programs, or the lack of the training against, just one thing, just going through cones and all that kind of stuff. And I understand people want individual one-on-ones and things like that, but like there has to be some type of, work against pressure. I know Gannon used to always say to us, technique, speed, then contact. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, how do you go back and see, okay, this kid can't handle pressure, then be like, okay, I see why when you go back and look at the way he trains. So how do you correlate that? Is it correlation in that? Is it something that we can get a clue to or a key to help these players out?
Oh, 100%. I've just in my own time since then, I've just boiled it down to a formula. So through my own experience, I first of all started with changing how I trained one on none. Like you said, it was a lot of cone work at first. It was a lot of like just stationary ball handling. I was a 2-ball guy. I could dribble with the tennis ball. I almost got started with 3-ball stuff. Like, this was back in early 2000s, man, people were doing clown tricks. And so I started like asking myself, like, do I need to do that? Right. So good thing I didn't, right? Because I just would have embarrassed myself, number one. So like,
if you would have started 3-ball, bro, I probably would have been like,
we wouldn't even be cool. I already know. You know what I'm saying? I definitely would have lost my card on that one. So here's the formula. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. So when you're training one on none, you got to start with just the essentials. So yes, stationary dribbling is important because there are moments in the game when you have to dribble standing still. But if you ask players when that is, they probably couldn't tell you. Number one is when you're probably like already in a certain spot on the floor, like meaning you're on the wing or you're at the top of the key, and maybe it's a horn set. So you're waiting for two bigs to sprint up and to screen on either side. So you have to hold your position while maybe someone's leaning on you or they're right in front of you with a handout, right? They're arm's length away. And so the ball has to be like in a pocket. You have to dribble in a ready stance, but not tense, not to the point where you can't move when they move. So you got to be relaxed, but you do have to be like alert. So I didn't train like that. I didn't like, even just when I was working on stationary dribbling, dribble relaxed. I was like, like all the stuff we were just taught, like dribble hard, dribble as fast as you can. Come on, pound it, pound it. It's like, yeah, that's cool for building up your strength. But I was a man. I was a freshman in college. I'm as strong as I'm gonna be. I don't need to work on, putting a dent in the floor and all that. Like, no, I needed to figure out how to relax, because when I'm seeing all the best ball handlers, when they're standing still and someone gets close to them, they don't flinch. Like, they just turn a little bit. They slap your arm down. They might even grab your arm and hold it. The ref can't really see it. They bump you, like they'll chip you with their elbow or hit you with their shoulder. So I was like, okay, I'm doing this all wrong. Like, I need to be like water, a little looser, more reactive, more ready for war. Like, I can strike you instead of worrying about you taking the ball. And then, of course, like, if I have to reposition myself, it's not necessarily about a move. It's about understanding my body and leverage. So, like, keeping the ball sometimes behind me, going behind the back and bumping you with this shoulder, going between my legs and stepping in between your feet with my foot, like what they call them, tricks of the trade, right? So first one was stationary. Then the second one was what I call compass dribbling. So north, south, east, and west dribbling. Now, we teach kids how to do moves. We teach kids how to zigzag up the floor and change directions. But how many kids, T, do you see when you go and evaluate, they get a board or someone outlets it to them and they go dribbling as fast as they can when maybe they should be like control dribbling, or they should kind of pace it so that the wings can run out in front of them and take the defense with them a step or two. And now they can like create, or their teammates get a hit and they can kick it rather than dribble it. But they just race so fast, they beat their teammates up the floor and they go 1-on-3 and they blocked off the glass. Yeah. Right? Like, that happens all the time. So, like, control dribbles, like half speed, 50%, hard pound, but still like relax. Like, you're skipping almost. Got some rhythm to you, got some pace. Magic Johnson was great at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? White Chocolate was good at it. Any guard that who's like pass first, they got that kind of like in between speed. Yeah. Then you got, of course, a speed dribble. That's where you're throwing the ball out in front. It's not next to your body at all. It's like a carrot in front of a horse. It's pulling you. It's like a magnet. You throw it out. It's not out of control because you can get it right back and do it again.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know how to like go back and forth between those two. You see what I'm saying? And then changing hands while you're doing it, doing it with your weak hand to the point where it looks like your strong hand, to where you can just pass it like right off the bounce without picking it up with two. Yeah. I didn't have that. So north, then south. How many players work on dribbling and going backwards? I rarely see that in workouts where kids are escaping pressure, right? Whether it's crabbing backwards or they're running backwards, almost like with a sprint while dribbling right or left. And then east and west is like the best case I can give you is Steph Curry. He's really good at like gliding and skipping a couple times to the right and then crossing over, or gliding, skipping left and then pulling up. Like, Steph Curry, to me, don't have like a yo-yo, but he can go north, south, east, and west, to me, better than anybody playing right now. Yeah. Like, his feet are under him to where it looks like he's stumbling when he's dribbling, but he's really like just moving you until he figures out, okay, this is my path.
Yeah.
He almost dribbles like a running back, like how they can like juke side to side. And then when they attack a hole, like, they go.
Yeah.
But he might pull back, go side to side, Reggie Bush on you for a second with his handle. Not like a Kyrie, not a Kimba, where he's like dicing you with moves. So those were the biggest for me. So stationary handling, compass dribbling, and then, of course, one more, body dribbling or contact dribbling or bully dribbling. So like Mark Jackson, again, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan used to use it as well. It's getting the ball up the floor with someone against you.
Yeah.
So you never even like go to race the ball. You almost are just backing down the whole way. You might spin and change hands. That one changed my whole game. And so every kid I've ever worked with since this process of me playing and then just going into training full time, I have vowed to teach compass dribbling, my different version of stationary dribbling, and then that form of bully dribbling. And bro, there's guys on the pro level who struggle with just those fundamental forms of dribbling.
Yeah. And I will say this, that, you know, people may be listening to this podcast and may listen to this podcast when we post it. They have to understand there are levels to this thing. Like, you know, can't take away the 2 ball, the pounds if you're at your beginner stage of learning this thing. There, what Cole is talking about right now is that average to elite level players that's, you know, looking to take their game, expand it to the next level. But if you out there and you can't chew gum and walk at the same time, you need to be working on some pound dribbles and some 2 balls.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? What you got to build up, some hand-eye coordination with some tennis ball stuff. It has its place now. Don't get out there and get crazy and start, you know, throwing the ball off the wall, jumping, catching. Just keep it fundamental. But you know what I'm saying? It's a place for all that. So don't want you're a kid listening to this, not a player that listen to this. You kind of just getting started. You may be a year into it, but you know what I'm saying, you're a little raw. Don't just try to go out there tomorrow and begin to, you know, you're trying to work on the crab drill. You're trying to bag somebody down. You losing the ball off your own foot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's places to that. But like you were saying, a lot of cats don't, and you know what I'm saying, cats, but a lot of players don't get that. And we see why, we're talking about tonight, there's turnovers and sloppy ball handling.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to have all that stuff you just said. And I don't want people to forget we all start somewhere. So like I had all the crossovers, the double moves, the counters, like I could do it.
But if you got to college, Cole, you're still doing all of that, now we got a problem.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what happens with players. They think because they've done just the actual like move, like you're trying to take a concept as a player and then turn it into like something that's now being applied real time. Like it's like almost saying, well, I've seen my mom drive, so I can drive. You know what I'm saying? At 9. I've seen, you know, my mother cook, you know, at 9 years old for years. She cooks every day. I watch her every time. So I know I can do it. You know, like you can see something, but it's totally different when you get in there and you start mixing and picking up the ingredients and having to measure it and figure out what goes where. And so as a player, you have all the moves, you have all the ability, your body and your physical strength is there. But now it's time to figure out when is the appropriate time to speed dribble? When do I change directions? How do I use my body? Because even in a workout where there's a coach who's maybe, you know, giving you contact and really applying pressure, it's still controlled. And you can kind of know like, okay, this is what we're working on. So this is how I need to prepare myself. And if you mess up, you get another rep. In a game, sometimes it costs you playing time. It costs you the trust of your teammates. It costs you, obviously, the possession of that certain moment of the game. Like now you're on defense if you lose the ball. You know, they don't give it back to you.
Yeah, and let me give everybody a kind of understanding of what we're talking about, and we can move over to desires.
Sure.
You know, we both trained this kid called Keegan, and probably one of the top shooters in the country. All right, but when he has the ball in his hand, it is 100 miles per hour, no stop. You know what I'm saying? And I have to take ownership of that, because when I first went to him and got him, couldn't jump rope, couldn't hardly really dribble, you know what I'm saying? Couldn't do a lot of different things. So I had to take him through a lot of that basic stuff, and I had to teach him how to work.
Yeah.
I had to get him going at 100 miles per hour.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I know that as we up and talk, it's easier to get them going 100.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Than, you know, or to get them there if we know I don't, but you know what I'm saying, to scale it back. It's easier to scale them back than to get them.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So I want to make sure the audience understand. But you know, this kid that he was back, and you know what I'm saying, I had to get him going. And so now we're in a place with him, and we both still work with him, that we're having to scale him back.
Yep.
And his mindset is 100 miles per hour. And
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But he works extremely hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like you said, you know, it's a good problem to have, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it takes us into our desires that players have, which is improving overall performance.
Yeah.
There is so many different components to this, you know, improving your overall component performance. But I'm gonna go to something that many may not think that or value much of this. You used to have, when you first started, you had your company was named Student of the Game.
Yes, sir.
All right, your name company was named Student of the Game. I still tell people about that, but I tell them this, that you have to become more of a student than a spectator. And one of the ways I tell them what they must do, how much film do you look at? You know what I'm saying? How much film of players that play your same position, not just in college, I mean high school, I mean the NBA, but in college as well. You know what I'm saying? And how much film do you look at guys that are being taught by really good coaches?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Popovich, you know what I'm saying, in the league, Thibodeau, you know what I'm saying, Kerr. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of great ones out there. Then in college, you know what I'm saying, many people might not think Pitino does, but Pitino does a real good job.
Yep, he does.
You know what I'm saying, Coach K, and you know, so it's just the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
What are your thoughts in regards to that? Because my thing is film, because you know, looking at it and being able to visualize it, and a lot of people are like are visual learners.
Yeah,
it does such a tremendous job in helping you grow and develop.
For sure. There's a term that's kind of floating around right now, and it got made popular by LeBron and JJ Redick's podcast, the Mind the Game podcast. It's called court mapping. And so, you know, people, it becomes a buzzword, right?
Yeah.
Once somebody who's pretty affluent uses it, but it's been around forever. And it's just basically doing what anyone like a quarterback or a point guard, or if you played hockey or soccer, anything where there's like a field and it's kind of schematics, like a strategy where a defense aligns here and the offense aligns there. And then you kind of are trying to predict what they're going to do based off what the offense does, right? Well, if a player or a coach understands the court's dimensions and where people move based on how the ball moves, you instantly become smarter. I was having a conversation with another really good skill trainer. Shout out to Coach Dorian Lee here out of Atlanta. I've been doing it for a super long time. We kind of regard him as like one of the best to ever do it. He's like an OG out here. Dory and I were talking, and he said something that really pricked my brain a little bit. He said, Korey, it's impossible to have skill without IQ. I'm sorry, the other way around. It's impossible to have IQ without skill. And I said, I don't really know about that. You know what I mean? Like, but he said, come on now, just think, have common sense. He said, how can you show me how much IQ you have on the basketball court if you don't have the skill to perform the act? I said, shoot. He said, you could know where to throw the right pass, but if you can't throw the pass, you look like a low IQ player because you missed the open cutter.
Yeah.
I said, wow. So then we began talking about, okay, well, if you know, we're working on skills with players in order so that they can become more high IQ, then how do we attach the two? And so here's my thing. If I'm working with a guard and we're talking about ball handling and maybe them understanding how to get a better overall game, like we're talking about overall performance. If I go baseline and we're talking film, like Coach T just said, I should already in my mind know if I have the ball on the right wing and I drive baseline, it means I'm driving towards the right side corner, I'm trying to get to the basket. I should know if they're in a man-to-man and I've got a teammate on the corner, teammate opposite wing, one in the opposite corner, maybe one down low. I should know where everyone is supposed to move. That doesn't mean they're gonna move, but I should know where they're supposed to move. That's court mapping. If I go middle, I should know where the defense should help, and I should know where my teammates should move. That's court mapping.
Uh-huh.
And so as coaches and trainers, if we teach based on the map of the court and just understanding if I go baseline from the right wing, the defender in that corner is not supposed to help. He's not supposed to leave the strong side corner. So if he does, that's my first pass. Simple. If I drive and he stunts at me and I fake the pass and he goes back, I might have a layup. But the low man is supposed to come over and take me. So now I got my big and the opposite dunkers. If I get below the block, the big and the opposite dunkers is supposed to circle up to the charge circle, the front of the rim. And if he does that, and the low man who came over and helps the help now, the weak side corner is open. If the X-man drops to take the corner, then I spray it to the wing. As a college freshman, I didn't know that. So I'm out there.
But let me help you.
Go ahead.
Many people coaching the game don't know that.
Oh Lord.
That's a whole nother story. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? They don't even know that. So when, you're talking court mapping, they don't even have an understanding. So which is why now we have players that are because this is the thing. Remember conversation Gannon told us about Chris Paul. Chris Paul they called a timeout. Forgot where he was at the time, but the coach was drawing up the play on the board.
Okay.
He said Chris Paul was listening to the conversation, listening to what the coach was saying, and he's drinking, getting hydrated. Did not even look at what was drawn on the board, but heard it and was able to go to and execute it. Many people cannot, in their mind, see what you just said.
That's true, because I couldn't see it
when I was
young.
When you was young, if you're able to see what you just said, then you can know that you're at another place.
Right.
If a kid can go back and diagram and draw what you just said, then you know that they got it.
That's right.
But most kids cannot go back and draw what you just said based off your conversation. Now, which takes us back to one of, what I'm saying, you talk about LeBron, you talk about JJ Redick. One of the things that a coach that LeBron talks about a lot is Coach Pop. And you will see oftentimes, whether it was back with Manu, Tony Parker and those guys, even now, we deal with court mapping, they know where their players are going to be.
That's right.
Based on that. Which is why you can see those guys come down, make passes, and you'd be like,
they ain't even looking.
They're not even looking because they know that's where, based off of the movement of the ball, that's where they're supposed to be, and that's where they're going to be. And Pop used to be a stickler, or it still is, in regards to making sure that the players are there. And he held them accountable for that. And, you know what I'm saying? And now we're talking, think about this. If you can get this into kids in middle school basketball, how much the game will be able to grow even more.
Oh, man, so much. And then, like we're talking about ball handling, then we talked about better overall performance. They're just going to be more confident because one of the most effective ways to connect any group of people is communication. So if we all speak the same language, whether it's English, French, whatever, we're going to naturally have more productivity because we can solve problems, we can figure out things and work together. When we don't have the same terminology on the court, so what a baseline drive is and a baseline drift is. I don't know what you're saying when you're saying, man, drift, get to the court. I'm like, huh? You know what I mean? Like, throw a better pass. That's what I'm saying back to you. Yeah. And you're like, what are you, man, you on this? I'm up here. Come on. Like, meet me up here. Like, now it's frustrating for both of us, but it's especially frustrating when maybe you're a kid that's in the gym 24/7 working on what you think is the right stuff because it's all you're exposed to, but you don't even know how to solve this new problem you're in. And so that's where I was. That's where probably a lot of players are today. And it's where some coaches are. You're doing all you can and you begin to feel defeated and a little hopeless. And it's just, you need more information.
Yeah.
So like T is saying, if you go to film, number one, you're going to, first of all, see like a lot of these situations are just like recurring. Like, if you get blitzed in pick and roll and you turn it over, you're not the only one.
Mm,
You know, if teams are downing you or icing you when you're on the side trying to come off a ball screen, so they're forcing you baseline,
mm,
you're not the only one. You know
mm,
what I'm saying? If you watch enough basketball, you'll see, oh, that's what happened to me last game, or that's what happened to me yesterday in practice.
mm,
So then all it takes is for you now to just lock in, and we have so many resources nowadays with YouTube.
mm.
You don't even have to have like Synergy or some, premium way of
Yeah.
accessing all this footage. You
Mm.
can just search the problem,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
How to make better decisions when driving in traffic, or baseline drive options, like whatever it is. And if you're patient enough, you'll find that there are examples, and you'll be able to then learn this is the appropriate read, this is the appropriate reaction. There's
Yeah.
not always going to be a coach in your area who's going to have a masterful ability to weave it into their workouts. But
Mm.
you, as a player, you can go to your coach, you can go to your trainer with a video clip that you found and say, this is what I struggle with. And
Yeah.
maybe it's your
Yeah.
film, but
Yeah.
you can also go with something that is a success, like it's done the right way, and say, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how he's doing this. Can
Yeah.
you and I get together and we break this down?
Yeah. And
You know?
then there are coaches, trainers that need to be truthful and honest with
Yeah.
themselves. I
Yeah.
don't know that, and they need to
Yeah.
up their game.
Yeah. We're
Um,
working on the wrong stuff. I'm gonna be
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
For years, I was studying drills and not studying the game.
yeah.
So
That's a good quote right there. You studying drills and not studying game. And there are a lot of people out there, a lot of coaches, a lot of trainers that study drills and not
mhm.
the game. And but
Yeah.
we're not here to knock anybody, because we're all learners. We're all
Yeah.
learners, and you wonder, I used to wonder, very, very early on, how can a player, when you're talking about the league way back then, how can a player um, get traded Thursday, get to their new team the next day, and be in the game in the lineup? And I'm,
Mm.
I'm, I'm thinking plays and all this kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It's because if we were talking about court mapping, they just
Mhm.
know, okay, if this
Yeah.
happens, then this happens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And now there are going to be some sets that's ran, but
Right.
they
Right.
just learning, knowing how to play basketball. You can
Exactly.
go from Golden State to Chicago, Chicago to New York,
That's it.
and and another thing, they all speak the same language.
Same language.
You know what I'm saying?
Same
And
language.
I've seen kids to go to Team USA. I've seen kids go to, what I'm saying, back in the day, the skills academies and things like that.
Yeah.
And they get, great players in their state, great players in their school, and they get on that level and look like they've never played basketball before,
Right. Right. Right.
because they're not understanding nothing that the coaches are talking about.
It's different, man, when you're the guy with the ball,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's your show. And
Mm-hmm.
so everyone's revolving around you. You're the sun in this whole, universe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all the planets are revolving around you. And then you go into another universe where there's other stars, other suns. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have to figure it out. I think, kind of going back to the trainers and coaches, I think it's just super key that like you boil the game down into like actions that take place on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to start with drive and kick, because every single ATO, special play, after timeout, whatever it is, it all has drive and kick in it.
Yeah.
Like somebody's penetrating, going towards the basket, or there's a pass that penetrates, and then there's a read out of that.
Yeah.
So start there. Then you need to study some type of like two-man action, right? Pick and roll DHO,
Mm-hmm.
right? Off ball screens.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a pin down was versus a back screen. I
Yeah.
didn't know flares. I didn't know, anything. So start with the things that you just see happening repetitively,
Yeah.
and then you'll start to see how everything else is just a chain reaction.
Yeah.
So we're not saying go study ATOs
Mm-hmm.
unless that's your bag. Like if you're a head coach, you need some in your back pocket. Need plays for two, need plays for three, need plays for a paint touch,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But if you're a skill development trainer, a young coach who's just cutting your teeth in this industry, or a player,
Mm-hmm.
study the things that happen the most often.
Mm-hmm.
Drive and kick being number one. Obviously you can go with post ups. They don't happen as often, but okay, what happens when there's a double and people have to rotate? And then two-man actions. The higher level stuff, three-man actions, and then like ATOs and specific need plays,
Mm-hmm.
sets. arrangements where guys start on the court, 4 out, 1 in, 3 out, all that stuff, like that's when your mind is really elevated and now you're manipulating the game.
Yeah.
So, for all the kids out there watching, you can become a high IQ player. You just have to start slow and break it down. And then don't be afraid to get in the gym. And we were talking about ball handling before, but don't be afraid to get in the gym and like not always train just like in a box. Like it's cool to hoop and just do some reading and reacting. Like, if you got a teammate or a stranger, you meet them there in the gym, like, hey, I'm trying to play ones, but I want to play ones out of this situation.
Yeah.
Instead of we just checking it up at the top,
Yeah.
like, let's go full court, or we don't have a full court. All right, I'm going to start at half, right? And I'm going to race it at you. And, you meet me at the top of the key. Like, however y'all figure it out, like, work on your weaknesses.
Yeah. And that's good, man. And, we are at every level, we can't be afraid to learn. And what I mean by that is if we are expecting or expecting for players to have a greater IQ, coaches have to have a greater IQ.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? And so we all have to be in the process of learning the game and staying students of the game and not just spectators. We've been in this thing for a very long time, but, we're still, me, I know you still looking at how can we grow? How can we grow? How can we grow? How can we grow?
Every day.
You know what I'm saying? So that's it. When we're talking about the fears of a player, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about not many, but, those that are fortunate enough to get into that starting lineup.
Yeah.
Fears and sometimes this fear right here of losing their starting position because everybody wants to know about, saying who's starting and, you want to get your name,
for sure.
Called and in the starting and lineup line and coming out, doing all the handshakes and all that kind of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, you got that 6 man, you got those guys that the coach trusts at the end of the game, because I'm telling you, I've seen coaches that who they start, that's not who they finish those games with.
Right. Of course.
It's a level of trust. And I'm not talking about blowout games. I'm talking about games that, 1 or 2 possessions going your way, going to determine the outcome of the game. And I've seen coaches who, really have a different, lineup and to come down the stretch. But let's talk about, those ones that start in the lineup. How much pressure do kids put on themselves when they are playing not to lose their starting position?
I mean, it's obvious that would add an extreme amount of pressure because you're not even really focused on winning the game. You know what I mean? You're more so focused on like, your own individual struggle, if there even is one between you and your coach. But it's like now you're playing not to lose instead of, leaving it all out there. You're not really focused. I'm sorry, I always have stories to go with, something, but like I struggle with that as a point guard in college because you fight so hard a lot of times to get that spot. So then when you get there, it's like you almost feel like you're in survival mode, right? And when you've like got a lock on something, like when it's yours, versus when you're like almost auditioning for it every single possession, every single game. And so I think for kids, especially with the competitive nature that is created also with like social media, and they can compare themselves now to, every other kid in their class. I think that plays into some of like the need to be seen, the need to be the guy that's getting like heavy minutes or coming out in the starting lineups. But I mean, look at guys like Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd, last year for Kentucky. 2 young men that both came off the bench, right behind, I think it was DJ Wagner. And now they're both lottery picks. I'm not sure. I apologize if they didn't go lottery, but they both were drafted, right, to the league, coming off the bench as freshmen. So the way that you impact the game, 9 times out of 10, if it is on the highest level, like if you're really like one of those guys that is trusted and you're going to play well, you probably will start. But if you don't, and there's a certain situation that calls for you not to, it's in your best interest to just go ahead and like buy in and focus on what you can control. I'm not saying be glad that you're not starting. I'm not going to lie to any kid out there and say like, oh yeah, it feels great to just have a jersey. And, you know, even if you're the ninth guy,
Yeah.
like, no, we all want to play heavy minutes. We all want to impact the game. But there are going to be situations where, like, for instance, last year as a high school coach, as an assistant, me and my head coach, Jay Sloan, we had to have real conversations about bringing a young man off the bench who actually was probably more fit to start than one of the guys that we wanted to give time to. The truth was the kid just played better when he had a few minutes to watch the game.
Yeah.
Like he when he came in with the starters, he just was different. Like he was a little awkward. He was nervous. He was gun shy. He wouldn't shoot. You know, like he was tense. But when he'd be on the bench, he was a chatterbox, right? He was a kind of an energy dude. So when he had the chance to see the game and it's going up and down a little bit, he's yelling, he's locked in, he's engaged. And now I'm leaning on him saying, that's how I want you to guard such and such. You see how he needs to be forced to this hand? Like when you go in, this is how you're going to change the energy of the game. You can't let that happen. So now he's excited because he knows he's going in at a certain time. I don't even have to tell him to go in. We've scheduled it with him. And so he goes in feeling equipped to play. I don't know if that's what every coach is doing, but I know it worked for us and it carried us to a deep playoff run. And he was honestly the most impactful player we had in certain stretches as a bench player. So I think even just my own experience, like, I needed to be relegated to the bench and lose my starting spot because I think I was just overthinking at times and I wasn't able to process things. And it brought me back to reality. It slowed me down and it calmed me down. And I never gave the spot back though. Once I got my starting spot back, I was like, okay, I get it. Like I'm good. I'm here. But yeah, for kids, hey, if you don't go through it now, I'm gonna say this. I work with right now probably 95% pros. Like I only have one player right now on my current schedule who is not a pro. If you don't go through it now as a child, you're going to be hard pressed to handle it with maturity when you become an adult or at least a college player.
Yeah.
You need some adversity now. Some of these guys that I'm working with, when adversity hits them and it's the first time, you just can tell like they have no idea of how to adjust, how to pivot, how to not be the guy. They're so used to being number one and up front and everything being built around them that now when it's not that way, they're confused and they feel like they've been attacked and they feel victimized. But you can tell the guys who've been through some stuff, they've kind of gone through the mud a little bit and they've had to earn it, that when it happens to them, they just kind of can keep their head up a little bit straighter. Their back doesn't get hunched over and they have the right energy. And it's like a not for long situation. They're right back on top after, they figure it out.
Yeah.
So, just go through that adversity.
Because you got to think about it. When it comes to the NBA, there's only about 30 or so of the guys. It's not many of the guys, and everything is centered around the guys.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So you may have been the guy in college, high school, whatever, and you're fortunate enough to get to the league. You got to change a lot. You might have been the guy in high school. You get to college and you're not the guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you said, dealing with adversity. We haven't really taught kids how to really deal with it. And so when they get in an older position where they have to deal with certain things, i.e. maybe we're talking about losing their starting position, it just freaks them out and they never recover. And if they don't have the right support system around them or the right, circle, then, or the right coaching staff that's able to see that and help them through that, then, they begin to turn the exterior stuff, getting, find out they and did something and now they off the team. And now, 3, 4, 5 years later, you'd be like, well, what happened to this guy? Or what happened to this girl? This player. So it's just, it is important that we teach adversity or better yet, understand that we're not enabling a player to avoid conflict.
100%. 100%.
So
you're not helping them.
Yeah, and a lot of that, sometimes we see that in, just to be truthful, the transfer portal. You know what I'm saying? And that's why the transfer portal is what it is and why it's like that, because people, they get to certain places, things are not working out for them, and then now it's a different monster for them.
Yeah, a lot of kids are just left in that portal. They don't even find a new home.
Yeah.
It's professional sports now, basically. I think kids need to take a look at how Jason Tatum handled this past Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
He was made fun of. A lot of people were, screaming, for him as if like, they're taking his side and, speaking out against Steve Kerr and the coaching staff. But he didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you really go back and watch the interviews and, go on Twitter, look at his profiles, like he didn't really like speak out against the coaching staff. He didn't make himself, the center of attention. We did as a group of people, right? The basketball community did.
Yeah,
the
we did.
media did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think kids can look at that and see like, man, here's a guy who just won the championship.
Mm-hmm.
In some people's mind, he was the MVP. He had been on the mountaintop and lost a couple times, before that. So it's like he had every right to be upset if he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to stay silent, for him to clap, for him to, swing a towel around, and yeah, he's human, so he probably felt the wave of emotions. But for him to handle it with class, that's how we're supposed to.
It's very few champions who have gotten to where they are without learning how to handle adversity. And
I couldn't name you one.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Saying everybody wants the champion's power, but nobody wants the champion's pain. You can add adversity and all that kind of stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
You think about Michael Jordan. Look at the adversity he had to go through with the Detroit Pistons. You know what I'm saying? LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? All that adversity he had to go through. Steph Curry, adversity he had to go through. KD. All of them had to deal with adversity. And how they dealt with adversity catapulted them into being able to be champions. You know what I'm saying? One thing that you look at, a lot of people, I'm an Alabama fan. I mean, I know you did not watch this game. I know you didn't watch the Alabama-Georgia game. But I sat there at halftime. And I sat there at halftime, text a couple of partners, and I told them, I said, look, Georgia is not about to just roll over.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have the DNA of a champion and champions, you know what I'm saying? And champions don't just roll over.
You got to beat a champ.
You got to beat him. You have to be. Nation Boy Ric Flair used to say, to beat a man, you got to beat the man.
Beat the man. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, for those out there, I'm going to give you another good example to look at in regards to, how to handle even what we're talking about when you guys lose a starting position. And we're talking about in the NFL. You look at what's going on between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I know last week they were talking about, I know Coach said he did not name a starting quarterback yet, but he's waiting on Russell to come back. Who knows how that's going to happen. But just kind of think about Justin Fields and what he's having to deal with right now. Playing, teams winning, even though they lost this past weekend, still thinking, okay, I'm doing what they're asking me to do. But when Russell Wilson gets back, I still might not be in the starting position.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's having to play through mental adversity.
Uncertainty.
You know what I'm saying? So in getting ready for all players, you know what I'm saying? For college players, you've already started. High school players, getting rocking and rolling in a couple of weeks. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the situation may be, you know what I'm saying? Kind of go ahead, learn, lock in. Make sure your circle is around you that is good. You got guys here, you can reach out to Cole, Instagram, Twitter, and be able to lock in and even sometimes get information that, we can be able to help you out with as best we possibly can. But Cole, great pillars tonight, great conversation tonight. I want to just know we are at the 59-minute mark with 37 seconds left. I want to give you a little time to talk about something I saw you posted today. The transition mentorship thing, if I'm not mistaken. Did you post that today?
For sure.
And kind of talk to the folks about what's that about.
Yeah, so I offer a 5-month mentorship program for any aspiring or current skill development trainers, coaches, anybody out there who works with, players on any level. Obviously, our livelihood is pouring out, is giving, it's trying to make other people better. But when are we going to take the time to get better, right? And to develop? We talked a lot about, court mapping today and like understanding the game on a higher level so that our players can. Well, this is the forum. This is the kind of the platform for that. So for the last 3 years, I've done this kind of 5-month program with different coaches, some who have, gone from skill development trainers to now coaching overseas because of some of the information that they've received, some who've gone from their businesses were not able to even like make ends meet to now that they've been able to quit their 9 to 5 and it's all they do. So we talk about scaling your business. We talk about player development. We talk about growing your own coaching philosophy, as well as creating like content and digital products that can help you not just affect the game when you're on the court physically, but create a sustainable business that can reach the masses if that's your goal. So T, I really appreciate the alley-oop to be able to share. You guys can go to transitionbball.com. There's a tab right there as soon as the homepage launches where it says view mentorships. And you want to make sure that you jump in. It lasts for 6 months or 5 months, basically the duration of the season will stop in February, right before March Madness begins, March 1st. And so we do 4 meetings a week. Every weekend we get on Zoom for about an hour, Q&A. I've had NBA coaches, GMs, college coaches, all types of people who come in and become great guest speakers and shared wealth of knowledge. So we'll have another good lineup this year.
So I want to just let the scout the Champions Podcast audience know that I have never been on these Zoom. I have never been invited. I've never been asked. I've never been, what I'm saying? And y'all have to understand. Me and this guy started training together in Orlando, Florida. We started together. He drove his hoopty down to Orlando and, like didn't have no friends down there, but we hooked up, and we have trained some of the top players in the country together. And we've been together for a very, very long time. I'm talking decades. And guess what? Man. I have never been invited to come into his mentorship program and to speak, to not even say, nothing, not to no testimony. He hasn't even invited me to come to even give a, how you give, like a sentence of, hey, look, Korey Harris, a great guy, He hasn't even asked me to write anything for him in regards to the mentorship program. So that just shows you what type of friend that I have. And I'm so thankful that, the old song goes, what a friend we have in Jesus. Because if I was dependent on Korey right now to bring me into his mentorship program, like it would just be jacked up. Like I would be wanting, longing, out in the streets, just period. And I have talked to people about the mentorship program. And I have shared the mentorship program in the past with people, coaches and trainers that want to scale their business or want to grow. I have shared it with them, but yet I have yet to be able to be invited onto the class, onto the Zoom. He just mentioned they meet 4 times a week. And that's 5 weeks. That's 20 meetings a week. He's been doing it for several years. And let's just say he's had over 200 classes. And guess what? His homeboy, who started out with him, hasn't been able to be on none of the 200.
Boy, I can't breathe.
But, thank you all so much for tuning in to the Champions Podcast tonight. We know we normally do it on Sunday. We had to do it on Monday because we missed the past 2 Sundays. But it was a lot of information tonight. Players, a lot of information tonight. I hope you were able to think about the frustration, desires, and fears. But one thing I want everybody to leave with. When you come and have a friend that say they're your brother and all this kind of stuff, make sure they have something that they at least invite you to it. If they believe that you have anything to say. Because obviously my friend, my brother, my co-host doesn't feel like I have nothing to say to his coaches and trainers that he trains and coaches. Oh, my bad, Cody. You have anything you want to say before we get up out of here, bro?
Hey, man, we talked about frustrations. I didn't know I frustrated my brother this much. We talked about fears. I should have been afraid of even talking about my coaching mentorship group. Oh man, we talk about desires. I just hope that I don't get burned like this ever again in a live setting because my man just read my mail. So y'all already know T is gonna be on the lineup this year for the coaching mentorship group. Ain't no way I can go from now till February without having him on. After that, I honestly thought it'd just be too beneath him. You know what I'm saying? He got a lot going on. But
that's the excuse they give. That's the excuse
they give. My man, I apologize. No excuses though, for real. 100%. No excuses. I apologize. We're gonna make sure that happens. Because hey, I know you got some good stuff to share. I know you do. Because you've always poured into me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was probably the best one we've had, and it ain't even Sunday. Hopefully somebody out there got an answer to whatever dilemma that they were dealing with, or a solution to their issue. Make sure you guys stay locked in with us. T, awesome stuff. I will make sure I watch at least something before we come on next time, because if I don't watch a game, I ain't gonna hear the end of it. So I'll make sure I take my Sabbath, as you would say, and tune in. And then we're gonna talk offline about getting you on the coaches mentorship group, my brother. We got to make it happen.
I'll let y'all know if that conversation happens. I'll let y'all know. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight. And as I always say, everybody wants the champion's power, but nobody wants the champion's pain. Obviously, right. Korey don't want his coaches to have the champion's power because I am a champion and I do bring some power. But you know what I'm saying? I guess he wants them to have
feeling the pain. So I'm taking the pain.
So he's taking the pain. Y'all got it. Peace out. We'll see you on Sunday. Man, am I?
Nah, come on now. Come on.
You know what? One way or another, you will see us either via recording or via live, but you will see us on Sunday.
There we go.
There we go. Peace. Y'all have a good night.
All right, y'all.